Great, man. Welcome to Tommy Talks. Sorry about the technical issues.
All good.
Mate, thanks for having us. This is the HQ for Pickstar.
It is, yeah, here in Perth at least. The main team's back in South Australia, but yeah, this is where I do my business. Got a bunch of school dads and mates next door. It's a good little hub actually. So got a medicinal marijuana business. There's a software company, or a couple of software companies, and a guy who kind of works stealth. He comes in, he must be working for a family office or something, because he runs his own hours, does whatever he likes. He's hardly here. Yeah. It's a good gig, I think, if you can get that one.
The work from home thing's thrown up so many. Well, I've spoke to someone yesterday and they're like, going to the office now, they reckon it's not efficient because they get caught in too many conversations. And then they get home and they're like, all right, now that I've done work from home previously, they just smash out stuff till all hours. It's funny how now people are just going, oh, I'll come in tomorrow because I'm going to stay at home today.
I think everyone's just worked out that you can do a lot more and be very, very productive by doing it at home. If you've got kids, nightmare. Yeah. Can't get any work done. I wouldn't. I mean, most people would understand if you've got kids, there's no chance of doing any work at home. But that's why I've got this little setup. Really. But now our kids are getting, certainly our two older ones, Harper and Jack, are in full-time school. Will still is in kindy. So, but no, totally. I think everyone's worked out that flexibility and productivity haven't really. They can go hand in hand.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating. The way we'll structure today, I was saying we'll go back to go forward. Yep. I'm going to give you a good lick here. The big thing for me is being a Victorian. I feel like I'm a bit of a hybrid, probably like yourself. You're a passionate SA man, and obviously lived here pretty much half your life. The thing in Victoria is, and even I know this because I grew up, barracking for the Bombers and more Victorian teams, but if you're in Victoria, you would be talked about much more. Obviously spoken so highly across the board. But these numbers I'm going to pop them out now. So I just made sure that I googled them so I didn't make a mistake. You played 353 games, and I remember playing in the last one, and we'll get to that later. Incredible, 700 goals, which is so good that you got 700, because I reckon 699 would have done your head in, would have done my head in. 6-time BNF. So the Doig medal, which is massive. 8-time leading goal kicker, incredible. But 6 All-Australians, 3 Ross Glendinning medalists, which is best on ground, West Coast game for anyone out there that doesn't know that. But 6 All-Australians, and the best part about that is you won one from full back and you've won majority from the forward line. Like that is incredible. And you're a skipper from 2017 to 2015. Just that in a nutshell, man. It's something that when you play with someone, you know how, I knew how good you were, but I was saying to you, like when we were having a few beers a few weeks ago, you don't realise the impact that you have on younger guys and people around you. And you probably, I reckon now you've probably gone, that was a good career. Like yeah,
I mean,
it's incredible.
You don't, I mean, when it's read out, it's quite embarrassing. I guess you don't really, when you and I loved footy when we were younger, right? Run around the backyard, run around the front yard, down there with your mates. All you wanted to do was get a kick and have fun with your friends. Yeah. And then when you get drafted, it's all encompassing early days. And we'll get to a few stories, and particularly when you move into state, you and I share that challenge that you haven't got that support network around. So you're just hoping to get a game when you first start, and then when you sort of find your feet and you're playing semi-regularly, then you're expecting to get a game. And then after a little period of time, you expect to play well. And maybe my journey to expecting to play well happened a bit earlier than others. But, I was just so keen to just squeeze every last ounce of potential out of my body and my mind. And I guess a byproduct of that is all the stuff you just read out. But no, look, I'm really proud of what I did at Freo and what we built as a group, and what we eventually, almost got to. So, all those things are nice, but just a byproduct of trying your backside off it. Yeah,
it really is. But the thing that's impressive, and I know you say it's embarrassing because you're a team man and you trade it all in for the flag, but you've done it hard as well. Like we're going to touch on how hard it was early days at Freo, but yeah, to do it from full back, full forward, and then
Well, I guess, and so, you know, that flexibility, you talk about, like nowadays, kids that get drafted, that ability to play all over the ground. So I played, you know, mainly forward and in the middle when I was a younger kid coming through the system, but I also played centre half back and full back in my underage, under 18 year. So I guess, you know, having that all ground ability gives you empathy when you're talking to other players that are different. You know how hard it is to defend. You know why forward pressure is actually pretty important. Or why, you know, a scrubby kick out of a clearance makes it a lot easier for defenders as compared to waltzing out and lace out. So you get that empathy piece, and plus, you know, when you become leader, you get a real understanding of how the game's played by having played all those positions. So, I mean, I played on some guns, like some of the all-time best full forwards and centre-half forwards, like Matthew Richardson, Matthew Lloyd, David Neitz, Warren Treadray, John Brown, when I was playing in defence. So you learn some great stuff when you go back.
Did you have any of them boys kick a bag on you?
Yeah, totally. Treaders kicked 6 on us once when Port were up and flying. Richo, I played Richo at the MCG and kept him to 2 goals to 3/4 time. And then we were sort of in the game, maybe a couple of goals down at 3/4 time, and Chris Connolly, the coach, said, "Righto, into the middle, like, let's win this game." We lost the first 3 sets of square clearances. Richo kicks 3, and then I go back onto him, and I think he got 1 more. So I mean, technically, he kicked 7.
Yeah, there's nothing worse because even me and Kevin Sutcliffe used to always talk about it. We'd play high defence, and it's a match-up thing, and you're playing like you're more the running back, and if someone kicks a goal, the camera goes straight to the pair, and you're like, I don't want to stand next to, and you might not be on him, but it's like, I don't want to stand next to Cyril, he just kicked another one.
Yeah, that's changed a bit right now because team defence, and yes, there's it's mainly the gun small forward and the gun key forward and the backs. Like there's really only 2 matchups. The rest you just slide and shift and change these days. But yeah, back in the day, I remember playing a Friday night, 2000, my first year, Friday night, so the Bombers, you would have been following the Bombers, lost 1 game for the year. Friday night game, 50,000 Bombers at Telstra Dome back then. I was playing on Lloydie in the goal square, and he stood on the goal line. Oh, wow. And everyone else like just cleared out, and there was no you know, zone off or roll. It was just one-on-one. I remember thinking, you know, I've got no chance of stopping this guy because the ball is going to come lace out.
Oh man, it's so much
it was
space.
The scariest. It was one of the scariest moments and loneliest moments. I remember early days playing fullback.
Do you think players should be doing more of that now, coming through the system, playing back for maybe a year or 2, and then going forward, or do you think just chuck them forward and let them understand the game from film?
So we've got 2 young kids at the moment playing, you know, soccer and netball and basketball and footy and everything, and like giving them the opportunity to learn different positions and understand the game and patterns and movement is really important. So whether, yes, you have to sort of narrow down by the time you're getting to under 16s and under 18s, but even at that point, the more you can show your coach you're versatile and can, if you're not getting a kick forward, but hey, put me in the middle, I can do a few things there, or hey, I can actually go and help play on a particular player who's dominating up forward. That gives the team so much variety. So, I mean, I'm a big advocate for it all the way through your juniors to play different positions. But when you're getting closer to draft age, obviously you have to define yourself as, well, I'm a key forward, or I'm a running back, or I'm a midfielder, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, spot on. As we spoke about earlier, like huge SA, Sacred Heart was school. What are your memories of Sacred Heart? Because we've actually got a funny story that Sam Harkin, I don't know if you remember, but he actually owns My Life and he's a good friend of ours. He's got a story about you that's all positive. He reckons one day they were playing you in school footy. I can't remember what school Sam plays for.
Was it Ross Trevor? They were our main rivals, perhaps.
I'll find out. Sammy, you meant to call me back, Sammy. Getting all the dirt on you. But I'm glad Gina let us know. One day you're playing school footy, packed crowd. The noise is, this bloke is a weapon, yourself. So everyone's tuned in, and I don't know, were crowds quite big at school footy games?
Some of the big intercollegiate matches, and we used to play Assumption College and also Xavier or Marcelin largely. Yeah, so we used to have big crowds for those.
I can't believe how big they are. And then they reckon all the hype, let's see how good he is. You've kicked 12 goals, and they reckon every single one of them from about 50.
I think there's a bit of mayo on that.
Oh, no mayo, they reckon, no mayo.
I remember in year 10, so in year 10, I'd sort of, our school, bit bizarre, but you had a middle school for both boys and girls from year 6 to 9. So we went and did that. Played in the year 9As and all that kind of stuff, and then got to the senior school, and I think you either got invited down or there was to the pre-season, first 18 thing, and so was doing all the training and obviously, trying my best, and we played a couple of trial games and sort of, kicked a couple of goals and did all right, and then we played Marcelin so it was the opening game of the season. So Marcelin College came across to Adelaide, and there was debating and hockey and tennis and everything. It was just a big sort of thing. It was great, awesome thing to be a part of, and it culminated with the game of footy on the Sunday Arbor. And I happened to kick 7 in this game, and I was like, okay, this is like, I think I know what I'm doing here. And then sort of not long after that, I think we played St. Peter's out at St. Peter's, which is Lachie Neal's school, Phil Davis, and they were always, so they're eastern suburbs, we're western suburbs, and it was always a bit of a thing, and was able to get on the end of a few. And this guy was like, I sort of kicked a bunch in the first half, and this guy just came, was just looking to smash me from that point on, this big sort of border. And then it was that year that really sort of, I guess, gave me confidence to move forward.
Is that like, were you a big kid? Were you like, were you just incredibly dominant as a?
I don't remember being that dominant until sort of that year or beyond that at school. I just loved playing. Yeah. Like, I was always a bigger type of kid, pretty tall and pretty solid. But I grew up playing cricket and soccer and tennis and basketball and golf. Like, sport was just a thing in our household. Dad and his brothers played in the SANFL. But both sides of our families were always just so, as in mum and dad's, always so active. And we had family friends of ours that lived around the corner, 4 boys, and so sport was life, really.
You just reminded me of a story when you retired. I remember doing my little skit package on you, and I remember the video Reedy sent in of the cricket where if anyone out there doesn't know, Reedy, he's a smaller lad, bit chirpy. You just wouldn't want to get bowled by this guy. And he's, got
the bit, so the tape on the ball, the big in swing, I've sort of tried to get
on film as well, like back in the day, and you've spat the dummy and thrown it
through the back.
And we played it in front of the group, and we were in tears.
Skinnies weren't a strong point at that point either, from memory. So, no, very funny. But no, so it was Reedy, and then the Floriani boys lived just around the corner as well. So it was always outdoors and playing. So that was my childhood.
Yeah, it's awesome. Nothing better. And then you go, 1999 is the draft. You go pick 4.
Yep.
Remind me, because I found this, that Adam Morgan, did he go pick 3 to Port?
No, so Aaron Fiora went to Richmond at pick 3, but Adam Morgan and Ken McGregor went the previous year.
Previous year.
So I was, year 11, I'd played underage, under 18, and played a fair bit of for SA in defence and nominated for the draft, along with... So Kenny played up forward that year, who went to the Crows. Nominated for the draft. At the back end of that year, I actually had like a fair, I was playing all these different sports. I had OP, so I sort of missed a little bit of the back end of the year. Anyway, sort of put the name of the draft, hoping to get drafted by one of the Adelaide clubs. At that point, you can only take one 17-year-old, and Port took Adam Morgan in the 30s, and Adelaide took Kenny in about the 70s or 80s, so I missed out. Yeah. Got on with life, did year 12, and then following year, picked up by Freo, leading into the draft. I played sort of a year of SANFL in year 12. Josh Fraser went number 1 to the Pies. Paul Hazersby, 2 to Freo. Aaron Fiora 3 to Richmond, and then myself and Lee Brown.
Brownie, what a man!
He came across to Freo.
That's fascinating. Are you grateful looking back now going, I'm so glad that I got another year of school and all that, and then obviously now you've set yourself up over here, you've got to be happy with how you
Yeah, totally. I mean, at the time I was devastated. I wanted to stay in Adelaide and play at either one of the Adelaide clubs. Particularly I was a Crow supporter growing up. But what it did do, and I'm sure you'll attest to this, it makes you grow up so much quicker, and it forces you into situations that are pretty uncomfortable. And that are hard, and you have to dig deep in yourself to work through those. Particularly when I first got here, the club wasn't where it needed to be. So I'm very grateful, and it's shaped me to the person I am now. And here I am 21 years later, 3 kids, Lauren, and sort of doing stuff in business and media. So I'm very, very happy.
Oh, it's a beautiful place. It's very similar. I was like, meant to go to Essendon, and Freo snapped me 3 picks before, and I was like, I'd never even been to WA. So I rolled in, like, I had no idea. It was a bit slow when I got here. I remember they didn't have Sunday trading and all that kind of stuff, which I'm sure you remember. Yeah.
I'm not sure we got it.
Yeah, I know. Very, very relaxed, which we do love. Well, let's get into it. So you got picked up by Freo. What are you? There's a very famous story where we talk about your first training session. Do you want to touch on that one?
Yeah. So firstly, excited but devastated when your name gets called out and you're going across the other side of the country. Like, that was a challenge. But then I think it's a bit different to when you got drafted, Tommy, sort of 10, 15 years later, in that you basically on the plane the next day, right, or thereabouts. I think there was a period of a couple of weeks between the draft and when I first got to Perth, and so finish year 12, and as you do, you go to schoolies and do the whole thing with your mates.
Yeah, I missed that.
And we had a great time down there and came back, and we were speaking to the club about, when are you going to come across, and we're going to set you up with a family, and started to speak to the fitness guys and all that, and then landed on a Sunday night here in Perth, and into the host family's house in Winthrop, and training was the next day, the Monday. And so Paul Haysby comes round, picks us up, off we go to Aquinas College, because at that stage Freo didn't have really a base. We were training out of the old grandstand underneath where Springer's gym is. That was our meeting room, our physio room, our doctor's room, our weights room. Like, it was backwards really for an AFL team. And we'd train at Freo Oval, but we'd also use the South Fremantle change room. So we didn't really have a base, and it was that was a part of the issue, I think, early days, about actually having a spot to go and train and do our business. But so Aquinas College, off we go. It was one of those warm Perth mornings in the summer where it gets to 35 degrees before 9 o'clock, and then the sea breeze comes in and cools everything down. But and there was no screening. It was just like, all right, mate, let's go, let's start warming up and into it. So we we do about 90 minutes of ball work, and I'm just day one of any job ever, take yourself back to that moment, but particularly in a job where this is all you've wanted to do ever. And so I was just like, I wanted to impress. I'm running through a million miles an hour and sweating profusely, and got to the end of this the ball work, and the running coach, Jimmy Bridle, came over and said, great session, boys, coaches, what do you got to say? All right, we've got 6 1K time trials. And I sort of was like, geez, okay, I wonder if I'm going to am I out of this? I'm in this? Sure enough, away we go. We're doing these 1Ks. So 2 laps of Aquinas College. And I get through, so I'm running with key position players. We get through the first 4 pretty well. The 5th one, I start to really struggle. I'm dropping off the back. I'm just chugging away, just hanging on. I cross the finish line and start seeing stars, have a big spew, and I'm wiping spew away from my mouth, and Jimmy comes over and he says, oh, mate, do you reckon you can do one more? And I'm like, yeah, of course, I'm fine. I'm sort of wiping everything off. And it was like one of those things where you get about a minute off between each one. So up to the start line again, and off we go. And I still vividly remember the group running away. It felt like I hadn't left the starting line. And I'm like, okay, just hang in there, just 2 laps. I get about 2/3 the way around the first lap, and I was battling. I was struggling so much. And I had this overwhelming feeling as if I was running closer and closer to the ground, just this weird feeling. Teammates who now relive the tale say it was like I was going down an escalator. Collapsed, passed out, and the next thing I remember is waking up in Murdoch Hospital, intensive care. Apparently, Boyley and Stephen Platt and the guys had driven out. They ran out there, and then they drove the property van out there because I was obviously overheating. Threw me in the back of the property van, tore down Kwinana Freeway to Murdoch Hospital, and handed me over to the staff. Boyley says he could hardly feel my pulse, and he was really stressed that something bad was going to happen. But Maybe that's why we've got a strong connection, Jeff and I.
yeah, definitely. If anyone knows Jeff's the physio, he's a good man. That is, I mean, you look back now, the players, I remember when we got there, it was like, you boys do like 25%, 50%. So and because your mindset is, I'm not pulling out, I've got it day one, I've got to impress. And the funny thing is,
but I was so embarrassed, right? You're meeting guys for the first time, coming into hospital properly, and then, I felt like I was just completely embarrassed. But what I probably didn't know at the time, and I look back and think about now and speak to teammates, they go, geez, at least you dug in, at least you gave your all. The respect I gained day one was something that I didn't appreciate at the time, but down the track I learned that it was actually...
Classic, I'd do anything for you boys. It's actually, it would be scary now looking back. It's a scary moment. Going into, because I wasn't there, it's really hard for me to touch on, like I'll be able to touch 2012 onwards, we can get right into it, but give me a little bit of a snippet. 2000 to 2012 is a long time. You won a lot of All-Australians and you did a lot of great things. But what were the highlights through that period and how was the club shaping? Because there's that classic derby fighting, actually that's the Gardner footage actually. How old were you there? Because we used to...
that was the end of my first year, 18.
Yeah, right. So that's, geez, he's an intimidating man. So that's when they were, we used to get bullied by West Coast and now I think we might be nearly even. But what was it like through the early days at Freo with like you said, with no home base? Yeah,
no home base, underperforming for a long period of time. I got to the club in their 6th year and they hadn't played in the finals, and there'd been some improvement. But they went to that draft and got Hayes, myself, and Brownie, and they went to the previous draft and got Justin Longmuir, and then it was about going to the draft and getting young talent and improving. And then we saw a rapid sort of climb through that period from when I first got there. 2001 was a really, really challenging year. We hardly won a game, and then 2002. I think 8 or 9 wins, and then into the finals, 15 wins in 2003. I think we finished 5th. And it was on the back of young, group coming through together with a couple of senior heads. And it was a great ride through that period. I still remember, we were down at Freo Oval on the Tuesday night. It felt like there was 20,000 people coming down to training. There might have only been about 5 or 10, but leading into that first final. So, we achieved there was things where we were, we'd never won in Sydney. We'd never, we'd never beaten certain teams in the MCG. We never won in Adelaide. We were just ticking off all these things as a young group together. Never played finals, and so we ended up losing to the Bombers in that final in 2003. But learned a lot of lessons and grew. And I guess through that period, you're right. Sort of gaining respect was really important, not only from the Eagles, but from everyone, from the competition about, we're here to play and we actually want to stand for something. And I guess it culminated in that year of 2006 where won 9 games in a row at the back end of the season, stormed into a prelim against Sydney and narrowly went down up there in Sydney. So, it was, we should have played more finals in that period between 04, 05. We had lots of injuries and other bits and pieces going on, but and I'm really proud of that group that I guess first started with, and then had a different iteration when even before your time with the likes of Matty DeBoer and Sonny and Soobs and Clarkey, and everyone got drafted at the end of 2008, and then and then the following year Fifey and Morrow and you guys came not long after that. Sort of we went on that ride again with a couple of senior heads trying to sort of steer the ship. So. Really, really enjoyed that period. But the gaining respect thing, like Dale Kickett, Shorty Mack, Shane Parker, Belly, a lot of these guys had just had enough, and so they were right. Let's line in the sand. Let's make a stand.
It's well documented. But what position were you playing through those years?
Oh, a bit of everywhere. So I really started as a key forward, and then played a little bit of both, sort of back and forward in that early stage of my career. And then Chris Connolly came along and said, we want to play you at centre half back, and then we'll use you in the middle from time to time. And then that turned into more of a So Adam Larkin was our training coach, and at that point we were like running on track, and we were doing lots of Olympic lifting. And my body type was more about repeat effort rather than longer endurance stuff. And so, and we started using the bench. Like, you know, if you look at the stats, I think the average bench sort of time or like rotations was like 20 odd in 2001, 2002, you know, whatever it is now, 100 or was it 90? Yeah. So, but we started using the bench a bit more about sort of high intensity running, and so they were like, oh, we'll use you in the middle. So sort of played half forward and in the middle a bit. So, and then you know, for different reasons, eventually settled as a key forward around 05, 06. So, yeah.
What was your best year between those years? It's probably hard to identify when you're playing different posies, but
probably the prelim year when I played predominantly centre half forward was a good year. I don't know what it eventuated in, but yeah, had a strong year that year. 05, the year before that was pretty solid as well. But yeah, it's sort of hard to work out. The prelim year was great because we were a very good team. We had senior guys, but a lot of young crew coming through as well. And to be on that ride together and to be playing pretty well, it's a good time.
It is, and we'll get to later on because there's nothing like winning. Looking back on my career, I was like, it's so hard when you're losing and it's so, like, you know, it's so thorough training. You got to be fully invested, but when you start losing consistently, it's hard. So yeah, there's nothing better than that grind. I guess this is where we'll probably start touching on it. But this is another fun fact I found out. Your first 2 kicks were 2 goals.
2 goals.
How many people in that category?
I don't know. There's Daniel Metropolis had something who played for West Coast. I think he had like either 4 or 6 or something. Really? His first, like ridiculous.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't know how many.
It's got to be rare.
So that was a childhood dream. Like, so Tony Modra was God in Adelaide growing up. Like, you know, kicked bags of goals, stood on blokes' heads, kicked miraculous goals. He was incredible. And I got to play alongside him in my first AFL game in the forward pocket next to him. It was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And somehow, like, first set of bounce, you know, Justin Lomure taps it down, Adrian Fletcher kicks it out, Brendan Fuster gathers it, kicks it on his left, a bit of a munger, it lands in my lap in the goal square, kick a goal. A couple of minutes later, ball comes down and take a sort of bit of a contested mark, the opponent falls over, and there we are too. I'm like, how easy is this? It's simple. David Neitz actually was playing forward and came down and played on me. Oh, wow. And I'm like, whoa. Yeah. And then I worked out that it's a bit harder to get a kick.
It's funny, I've got a mate called Brendan Fuster, and we used to always get into him because this guy's name was spelled, I think was he a ruckman as well?
Ruckman and forward, yeah.
A few of our mates when we used to play PlayStation, I used to go Freo and put Fury up forward.
He had, and he probably still does, the most magnificent body, like just ripped, huge, and he could bench like no other. He was incredible, the big buzz. Just unfortunately, ACLs and knees, but he's a good man.
Speaking of gym, what was your? I mean, when I was at Freo, you just did more maintenance because you're getting a bit older, but
older and banged up.
But you would be quite powerful. What was your go-to?
So when we're doing the Olympic lifting, like squats and power cleans is sort of where I excelled, and probably with these big ass and big legs, it probably makes sense. Bench, because of my shoulders, bench was never a great thing for me. I think, I don't know, sort of 120s or something like 130s at absolute max. But after my shoulder stuff, I just lost lots of, I still had enough there, but nowhere near as much as the early days. So. Yeah.
I always ask people because everyone compares their bench and what were you when you Olympic lifting? What were your weights?
So power clean, I think we maxed out at 130 kegs of a power clean. Squatting, I can't really remember. Would it have been twos maybe? I'm just trying to remember.
You'd be up there.
I can't. It's to be honest, like lifting heavy like that was a long time ago. I can't really remember the actual squat stuff. But yeah, squatting, cleaning, and deadlifting were kind of my
go-to. Yeah. Well, let's get into it. I think this is where I entered the club, but I was. Do you
want me to ask you questions?
What was I like when I rocked up?
Mate, the energy was awesome. Loved your attitude, but you were a work in progress. I remember, you'd roll up tired and grumpy, and you'd roll up stuff in your face full of toast or whatever it may be. yeah, pretty similar to most guys when you come to a club, you're like, oh, you know, what do I do? Where do we go? And, you know, where's the action? So, but no, you obviously, you know, you dug in the end.
I was a bit of a kid in a candy store, and it was like, fuck, I need to start switching on here. Because at
what point did that penny drop?
I reckon 6 months in, because Lockie and Cam were probably jumping us, and I was the first pick. I was like, and I knew that everyone would say it doesn't matter what pick you go, but I was like, far out. I'm probably a bit too skinny. I'm a bit fat as well. I couldn't work that out, by the way. That was like, honestly, everything I was doing, I was like, I can't work this out.
That's making news. There's no skin folds test.
Oh, so there shouldn't be, because I think it should be a DEXA, which is a full body scan, because this skin fold test doesn't, you know, the skinny fat man cops it, but I got no fat on my legs or anything. So when you do a full body DEXA, you get the percentage. And
so lean muscle, bone density, and fat
and fluid and all that kind of stuff is in there. So then you get that, and your score is elite. But when you do a skin fold, it was really poor. When Ross come, he was huge on it. I remember I ran the 3K time trial, and I think I come fourth, or I was right up there. And I used to go hard, you know me. I used to set the tone.
To go, yeah. And so actually, I'm keen to, because I was always, you know, middle of the pack. I'm doing a 3K, but it was you, Tendai, Matty, Sammy Menegola, and Mick, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd always be at the front. I'd go, let's go, boys, come catch me. And I cooked it a few times. I went real hard. I remember Ross would pull me aside. I go, mate, you see all those PBs? It's because the bunny at the front was getting them going, you know. But I remember coming fourth, and then I got tapped out of training. He's like, you can't train anymore. You're too fat because the skin folds. Like, what do you mean, mate? Like, I'm flying. Like, I'm not flying, but I'm fit. And that was probably like an eye opener. Like, what is this shit, you know? And that was the kind of discipline stuff. But yeah, 6 months in, I reckon. I mean, I was so driven to play, but when you're carrying on laughing and, you know, eating food when you're rocking up and being late, all that perception was getting talked about. I was like, what the fuck is it? Like, and that was the stuff that I learned, that how important it is to be on time, to probably be more professional at the right time, you know, juggling all that. So, and like you said, I was so excited. I was just so keen to get around the boys. But I was like, you probably work it out after 6 months. It's like, all right, let's get into it. My first memory of you, on the field, it was one of the greatest moments, and you'll be able to relive this. We played Geelong round 1. I was in the stands. Ross Lyon, first game as coach. We just had a huge pre-season. Everyone was really excited. It was at Subi. And I'll never forget, I think Scarlett, jumper punches, Ballas. We're playing really well.
Wasn't it a jumper punch?
Yeah. It's a full-blown jab. Yeah. I mean, everyone would want to do that. We love Ballas, and everyone.
Even his own teammates.
Yeah. But I still remember, because we were sitting in the pocket, and we're down, and I remember this ball just comes out, and you've just kicked it like soccer off the deck around the corner, fist pump, and because it was right in front of us where we were sitting, and the crowd, and I remember just calling my parents, going, "This place loves footy." I couldn't believe it. Do you remember a bit about that game?
I remember a lot about that game, yeah. That whole transformation of the club. So we'd been on this journey for, as I said previously, you know, 08 we go to the draft, 09 we go to the draft. 10 we play finals, win a final against Hawthorn at Subi, and then, you know, 2011 we're injured, we're banged up, we just missed the finals. I think we lose the last 4 in a row. We only had to win one of those 4 and we would have played finals. The club makes the really hard and challenging decision to terminate Mark Harvey, and at the same time, you know, insert Ross Lyon as senior coach. So, which was huge at the time.
It was massive,
It was incredible. Like, yeah, Ross walked into this so intense press conference, and yeah, it was a pretty challenging time. And players, I remember, some players were flat as a tack because they had a great relationship with Harv. Some players were like, "This is great for me because I get a new start." And then there's everyone in the middle, right? So, I still remember, you know, coming home that night when it all blew up and thinking and saying to Lauren, "I know this is tough, but I think this will be a good thing for the club. You know, I think this is what we need." And so, yeah, it was, I guess, the culmination of all that hard work from, I think that was September 2011 through to March, you know, game 1, round 1, Geelong, reigning premiers, like, you know, bring it on. And I think we got out to a flyer. I think we'd kicked like 5 or 6 goals early, and they'd come back. And yeah, I mean, that was sort of late in the game. I was playing forward on Tommy Lonergan, who I had lots of battles with over our career, and sort of somehow created some space. Fifey kicks a tumbler forward, and I remember sort of turning and thinking, oh, this should sit up for me and I'll snap it. But it kind of went on its end. And then, instinct just kicked in, and I've tried to hack it out of midair, and it went like a bullet.
Mate, you smoked it. I'm going to try to find the footage because people probably can't remember if they didn't support Freo, but it is like, I'm watching this unfold, I'm like, did that just happen?
And so, we win that game, get off to a good start, and, we play finals that year. We played Geelong in the semi-final.
And that was my next point.
Over there in Melbourne at the MCG, no one gave us a chance.
Mate, no one.
We smoked them early. We were out to a great start.
I think you kicked, would you kick 4 in the first on
3,
fire.
I think, yeah.
You kicked 5 for the game or 6 for the game? 6 for the game.
Yeah.
I remember it because I stayed here, I was in the team, and watching it, we had such a good belief in the group. Yeah. That was what looking back now, I was like, I just rock up, no one would win. And I remember I didn't really look into the media that much, but I just remember like a lot of randoms, like friends, family going, oh, you boys had no chance. I was like, we're a huge chance. Yeah. And that kind of...
And then the following week, so we play 6-day turnaround, we play Adelaide, over in Adelaide. And again, up at 3/4 time, a game we probably should have won, going to a prelim against the Hawks. Now, I think Lou McFarlane was injured that final series. If I think back to that period, we never quite, except for 13, we never quite had the continuity of that group together at the right time of year. We unfortunately all banged up at various stages. But yeah, that year, as you said, gave us great belief to go, righto, like we've got enough good senior players here, enough good young guys, and some real great role model and role players in the middle. We can do something here.
Going back a little bit, but when Ross rocked up, because everyone talks about what was Ross like, he was ruthless. Like, it's just the way it was. What did you find fascinating as skipper? Because you're such a great leader, and you've got to lead the group, and you've got to digest, all this new style and technique of Ross's coaching. But there was some moments there where players, like you said, like you're not training for 2 weeks, you're not training. Even you, I think you got pulled out of training. You're going to get that skin folds down as a test under 55 or 50 it was. But there's a few other players that might have copped it. But was there anything else that you remember?
I don't think anyone got missed.
No, that's probably what it was like, wasn't it? It was like, oh, he's gonna go the skipper as well.
Well, no, so I remember, so I'd had hip surgery and maybe I had 2 lots of surgery. Lauren and I went on a honeymoon to the States, could hardly train, came back, skinnies were like 55 or whatever those. Yeah, and yeah, he's like, we'd met a couple of times. He's like, I'm going to set an example here. We're going to put you on ice for a week or 2 until you're below. I was like, okay, righto. Like, I've got no other choice here to go grin it and bear it. It's a bit like another story later that year when he cooked me at halftime against the Gold Coast. And you just sort of swallow your pride and swallow your ego and just get on with it. But yeah, no, he came in with a real firm belief in the game plan. Firm belief in standards, and empowering his leaders. I think that Ross will probably reflect back, and he'll probably think that wavered by the time he'd maybe exited the club. But yeah, I mean, he was so good at identifying trends in the game, identifying what the players needed to know, and he was ruthless, but he didn't miss anyone. He'd start. He always say, "I'd start at the top." So whether it was your skipper or your best player or whatever it may be, he'd nail that person, and then everyone else knew they had to fall in line. So
my favourite part, because looking back now, it's definitely not how I would do it, but it's so funny, and I'm so grateful for it. I just remember we used to have notepads and we used to review meetings. It was like the review, Pav review yesterday, and you'd be like, so everyone just started to take notepads because it is a lot of information to retain. And I just remember, I don't know what year it was, but I remember all the players were on edge. We might have had a loss or something, and out of nowhere, he just plucks a coach at the back and goes, review yesterday. And I can't remember who it was. He's had a fucking meltdown. He's like, oh, yep. And he's like, too fucking slow, you. And on to the next one. And all the players just put the pens down and went, how good is this? Yeah, popcorn, your turn, boys. And I think he gave the coaches a rocket, and the players were all like laughing on the...
No, but this is the thing, though. So everyone thinks Ross is a tyrant, but he would he wouldn't discriminate. He would, whether it was the captain, whether it was the best player, whether it was the young first-year player or his own coach.
Which you love, because politics is huge, and it's as a fringe player, it's painful seeing blokes get away with stuff, and then the guys that aren't as good copping it. It is a bit painful.
But look, times have changed from what I can hear. That's what's that, 10 years ago, right? 12, yeah. So I think there's elements of that strong accountability still needs to be there in any organisation or team, but more of that relationship stuff is you need to have both. Put it that way.
Yeah. It's more that old school. And then so 2012, we just touched on that.
We used to pick on Lockie a lot. I remember Lockie getting torched a lot.
Lockie copped it a bit. But he could get in games. That's why we were like, because he used to not complain. We used to go, me, Lockie, Cam, Croz, Sloithy. I hope I haven't missed anyone. We'd go hang out afterwards, and Lockie would be like, Forsty, and we'd be hanging out, and he'd be like, man, he's fucking ripping me, and we're like, well, you're still playing. We're playing Peel, mate. So I'd cop it, and he's like, but bro, and he used to just go in every meeting. And
just reminded me of a story when Locke and Sloithy were out on a Sunday.
Oh, so he absolutely stitched Sloithy up. They went in the club on a Sunday, and Ross come in and could smell his breath. And Sloithy's trying to get a game as a rookie, and he goes, where have you been? And he's like, just was it Sloithy's birthday? And he's like, he had a birthday? Because they're both injured. And he could smell the bourbon on his tongue, and he's like, how many you had? I think he said like 6. Bang. Both of them just copped it. I think they both got
I remember the next morning, coming to the leadership group meeting or something, and the boys had to walk in and sit down, and where were you? How long were you out? How many beers you have? How many bourbons you have? I still remember that story. Poor Locke was, and Sloithy, but he threw him under.
He threw him under and didn't, that was what killed him. He's like, I just slipped my tongue, and, mate. I've had it.
Locke reckons he's never had bourbon since.
I thought Ross would respect him for having a bourbon, to be honest. That's funny. There's so many of them. And then 2013, such a highlight year, especially for me as well. I played my first game at the end of 12, but didn't feel like I got given it, but I was out of the team the next week. But the next year was when I felt like had a huge pre-season, but we end up going to a grand final. But that year was incredible for me anyway, and the group, and that's what we touch on, and so that's probably one of my highlights looking back. But
what do you remember from that year?
I remember, like I said, the belief. I remember how hard we worked on the pre-season, and how much the finals the year prior we took into the pre-season, and how much we backed our defence, like our team defence, and we just kept talking about team defence and then moving the ball. This is just like on turnover, go quick, inside, and then get it in straight to the big fella one-on-one or whoever else is out. We just started clicking, and the group was the same. I felt like our younger guys, me, Cam, Croz, Lockie, as a group, core group, we're all starting to get a game, and as I said, we just all started. I reckon the group, I was saying the other day as well, as a younger player, and you would see so many come through, but like you said, you want to be respected, not liked. So the way to do that is to get a game, literally. And the way you get a game is obviously all the actions to get a game. So when you start playing your game, you start to feel like you belong. It was a real good group, and we're at Matty DeVore's wedding the other day. A lot of players I call get shafted. I think the club got rid of way too many good people too quickly, and I reckon it ruined the culture a little bit. That's my opinion. But
who do you mean?
Like the blokes like Matt DeBoer, Alex Silvani, even like Tendai, like Mick, all these blokes that were like all these men, like after your year of 2016, but all this core group that we called the backboners of leaders that would really drive standards behind there's like a leadership group, and then there's the backboners, and then there's everyone just trying to catch on. We lost the whole group in 1 year. There's probably
the end of 2016, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm sure the club looks back at that and goes, that was a massive mistake. You're right, there's that group of people, not only because we saw them a couple of weeks ago, but they were the backbone.
And great people, man.
Yeah, they were the backbone of that group, and they drove lots of standards that, there's only so much a captain or a leadership group can do. That middle group, that backbone that are playing, some even more
Chris Mayne as well left. Mayne was huge.
Yeah, all of that. You're right. Sauce, Tendai, Mickey, Ballas, although he remained, Maney, Tendai, Matty, yeah, great people.
And for those that don't, like, we can talk about it now, but we would give votes for leadership, and this is what I would, because Matty knows he's not the most talented, but Jesus, if you meet the guy and see how he goes about it, he is the most impressive human. You would give him 5 votes for leadership every year. And as a young player listening to that, I was like, wow, like, the skipper's giving him 5, therefore obviously like he sees so much in this guy. So like and then to see the way that he exits, that's what I mean. Like, it's like, why are they doing that?
I'm just so happy that he has, like, I just remember how driven and motivated and what great leadership skills he had as a 20-year-old when he arrived, 19, 20-year-old. And I could see that, yeah, he wasn't the best kick, and yeah, he wasn't the most gifted, but geez, he worked his backside off, and he loved his teammates, and he would pump them up like no tomorrow. So some of the things that I wasn't so good at, he was great at. So I was like, well, we need that in our leadership group. And I'm just so happy for him to go and, you know, he's played over 200 AFL games. He's a leadership member. He's played in 2 grand finals, and he's doing great things off the field. So he in that group. I'm so proud to see all those guys flourishing, because like Sauce is doing great stuff off the field now. A lot of that group are have landed on their feet and doing great.
And that's back to them. That's the memory, like the Jay Van Berlo types as well. Like just great people. And I just remember, just everyone digging in. It was such a selfless group. Our values as a club were really, you know, they still stick out today, because that's the thing that's hard when you are ingrained into the values, because we changed them when you left. Like a little bit, and it's hard to remember new values with a similar, like you're in the same club with a similar, like, you know, coach and a few players, not the same, because a lot of people left. And then obviously I go to another club, you got to learn another lot of values, but the ones that we had, it's just, I still remember a few of them. And
compromising and resilient.
Yeah, you almost had to remember, because I think, who was one of the boys had to come in?
We'd sort of every now and then try to, not catch someone out.
I think you got Tabs.
Tabs, yeah.
You come in and you go, Tabs, righto, give us the trademark values. And he fucking had a mare. He got stuck on 4, couldn't get the 5th one.
It's not about, all it is like, guys, we value these things. It's not about hanging Tabs out to dry, although we all give him shit about it now. But this is what we value, and you know, we're going to hold each other accountable to it. So, look, they're great memories, and catching up with. So Luke McFarlane and I are good mates. Obviously, we were same draft year, and we see them, not so regularly anymore, given they've been away. But they're coming back to Perth now, so. Yeah, great bunch of people.
Yeah, it is hard to catch up with everyone. There's so many. So 2013, incredible year for the club, and the buzz around town. I just remember we used to rock up and win. Like literally, we'd get sprays. I remember getting it was just like sprays if we didn't execute our game plan, even though we'd won by 30 points. It was just like that first quarter was shit house or whatever, which was kind of great, because that's the standards that you take into the next phase. But highlights for me, the whole year was a highlight, but the finals clearly. I remember I got lucky enough because Michael Johnson hurt his calf, so I got put as the sub against Geelong at Geelong. So that's a highlight. I mean, geez, that must have been, it was just incredible, really.
I remember thinking, we've been shafted here.
Hardcore, like.
This is bullshit. Why are we playing a final, the first ever final away from the MCG? First ever final down at Cardinia Park. What's going on here? That was all I was thinking. But I knew we and the leadership group, and it's okay, we're just going to have to grin and bear this, because if there's any hint of that gets into the group, then it's going to be hard to win. So I was like, right, we'll just embrace this, take it on, we'll be fine. Let's go and smash these blokes. We've done it before in a final, we'll do it again, right? And even just like Ross's, the whole week was, when the Geelong crowd roars, all it is noise. It doesn't mean it's good noise or bad noise, it's just noise. And so use that noise to fuel your belief and fuel your actions and to communicate to your teammates. And that, like, what great psychology and what great sort of use of how we're going to embrace this challenge. The famous Aaron Sandler's punch, Stephen Hill, Lockie Neal, and you.
It's kind of embarrassing, because I'm like kicking at me for like 100 metres, and then I'm like, I'm literally like an airplane, mate. I'm like, and then at the end I go, well, fuck, what do I do? So I went and put this horrendous shepherd on, and then just the celebration for me was my highlight, because I love just getting around the boys. But that clip always pops up.
Everyone has got to position. So I was down the line. I could actually see it happening in slow motion. Like Aaron go up, Lockie's just like stumbling off the field, and Stephen sees it before anyone else sees it, that he's like, I'm on here. Yeah. And off he goes. And so I'm like backpedaling, I'm cooked, sort of trying to drag Lonergan away. You're running into his space. And then he kicks the goal and we all celebrate. And then the footage, like, I'm immediately going to Mickey 6 wing, let's get an extra number behind the ball, just to hold the lead. But yeah, incredible. I think I took a mark just on the siren and had the ball in my hands when we won. And that was so pleasing. And then, a week off, 2 weeks off into a prelim here, and smack Sydney early in that prelim, and we're up, and it's sort of like conservation mode because we knew we were going to win that game. The crowd that night was incredible.
This is probably one of my funny stories because I don't talk about it too much, and you might not remember, but you might now if I tell you. So I'm out of the team because Michael Johnson comes back in, but I'm emergency. And I don't know if you remember, but Chris Mayne and Krause roll in, and Mainey's completely cooked his back, picking up Krause, and couldn't walk. Like he's
at the game?
Yeah. And I'm like eating lollies, like I know I'm not playing. I'm kind of just G'ing the boys. Like, I was just so excited to be a part of this. I was like, couldn't wait to watch. And I just remember Mainey's seriously in trouble. Tommy, you're going to be. I remember Ross calling us in and goes, the noise is, Mainey's back is in trouble. Tommy, you're probably going to play. Put your boots on. You're going to be in. And I was like, I probably, looking back, didn't prepare. Like I didn't do my mental reps. I was just kind of like, there's no chance I'm playing. I'm going to enjoy the moment. So I'm like out there doing my ground balls. Like I'm talking, like, I don't know who was coach, rolling me all these ground balls. I'm warming up. I'm full sweating. And then Maney's just come like out and he's all good to go. This is like 2 minutes before. And then you boys you did your speech and you went out. I remember Ross going, close but no cigar, son. And then I was like, yeah, fuck it. I was like looking down, like, man, I could have played because that was watching from afar. Yeah. I just remember it was just team defence. We literally just smothered them, pushed them back, and we dominated that game. It was a complete game.
That game was all about stoppage, dominance, and pressure, which was our and defence, and which was our bread and butter at that stage. I think from it we started like a house on fire with stoppage, but just couldn't. Maybe we couldn't execute in front of goals. It was a really windy night. We'd had a couple of big storms, leading in. But that second quarter, just the pressure and the manic kind of way we played, and the crowd was incredible. And then obviously leading into the GF, what a great week it was. Tried to embrace it all. I remember sort of thinking though on the Tuesday, I was like, this is great, but I just wouldn't mind a bit of normality. So sort of wrestled with that a little bit that week. And then, the day itself, we start terribly. We're slipping over, missing shots at goal. And, was it 9-14? I think we kicked them 4 out in the full.
I remember like the first few quarters. Just to quickly go back before we go to the granny, because we'll talk about it. But I just remember Shawnee Mack, Alex Silvani, and myself. I think maybe someone else was in the car, but because I was emergency, we took off. And I remember, you guys wouldn't know this because you were doing your ice bars and all that. When we left, we went, I think one of the boys were like, let's go for a drive down Freo. So we went down Freo, and I've never seen anything like it, mate. We had people jumping on the car. I think Sean was like, make sure because I was wearing my team kit, he's like, make sure you don't get spotted because they'll just jump the car. So we're going down, like as you'd go like from Freo Oval down to like towards Benny's. People, like the whole street packed that you couldn't drive your car through. There was like, everyone was in purple going crazy. And this is 2 weeks out of the granny because we're into the grand final. And I was just like, I almost wanted to wind my window down and just go, yeah. And I just was like, wow. And then that was the momentum, like you said, it was just crazy. The town was buzzing. You couldn't pay for a coffee going anywhere. Training, like you said. As a skipper, how hard was that week? Because there's so much media commitments and expectations. Yeah. How hard was it?
There's lots of stuff to do. I don't remember it being overly hard, but there was extra things to tick off during the week. I remember feeling we're in this up to our eyeballs and we can win. I wouldn't mind a little bit of normality, and it just. As much as the club and you do with ticketing and everything else, try to front load the week, the week's a big week. So getting to Melbourne was a bit of a saviour in some ways, getting out of Perth. But Yeah, like, you know, I still remember at half time where we'd kicked a goal and we hadn't played that well, but we dominated play. And I remember like Ross or maybe even Summer or someone said, I think we're going to play 6 forwards. And I was like, yeah, great idea, because we're getting torched with the +1. Every time we played the Hawks through that period, it was like, let's play 6 forwards, because we're just giving them...
They just get that roll off, yeah.
And then they're able to, you know, use their kicking game. So, and then we come out after half time and storm back into the game. But unfortunately, 9-14 and the 4 doesn't get it done on Tuesday.
Yeah, we played so well, we just didn't kick straight, which kills us. But incredible effort to get there, and nonetheless, like we speak about, the relationships that the people that help you get there, you know, from everyone, like support staff to the people that work there, players and coaches. But yeah, huge highlight. Do you remember much after it?
I remember obviously just being shattered.
Yeah.
I remember being equally shattered in 15 when we lost the prelim.
Yeah, that still grinds me, yeah.
And I actually, it was the first time that I'd cried after an AFL game, after that prelim. Yeah. I wasn't sure if I was going to play on. I remember tearing my calf in the 3rd quarter. You know, obviously we had a bunch of guys limping around, Fifey with his leg, and Woosh didn't play that game, Luke didn't play. And I remember thinking, okay, that might be it. That might be our chance going after losing in 13 and then minor premiers, winning 9 or 10 in a row in 15, and then having a home prelim. Sort of thinking, that might be it.
Yeah, far out. I didn't think about it like that. Yeah, if we had have won that game, would have you played the granny if you had a tall calf?
Well, I don't know. We would have found a way, I think.
Yeah, we would have. It would have been a bizarre week.
Because Jono in 13 had a similar thing.
He had a similar thing, and I remember, this is because I was emergency, so I did the parade and all that. I was obviously in the squad, but I knew I wasn't playing because I knew there was Jack Hanneth, myself, and Alex Silvani. So Sauce got the tap because we knew one of us was going to potentially come in. Do we need speed? I was like, I'm a big chance if we need some run. If we don't,
need a key back.
Sauce is in. So I was warming up, and I remember just like putting the jumper on because I had the logo of the grand final and like warming up with the ball. All my mates were like, you might be in. I'm like, nah, I was just putting it on for the cameras. But I remember Sauce, he was intense because we were like, what's going on here? And it was a real late call. I think Jono called it with like 2 minutes to go. Yeah. And then I think he did end up straining it again in the game.
Yeah, and look, you know, it's a hypothetical. Who knows what would have happened? But yeah, we would have tried our best to get there. Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
14 was bizarre. I actually had a bit of averaging myself, but 14 I think we won. I think we played really well, but we lost 2 finals in a row.
So yeah, Sydney, up in Sydney, we actually played reasonable footy in that first semi, but only went down by a couple of goals. Buddy kicked a couple of really good goals late, and then came back here and should have been a long way up against Port Adelaide at half time. Missed a bunch of goals again. And then they sort of overran us, and then they ran Hawthorn to 2 points or whatever.
Yeah, in the prelim, yeah.
14 was 14 was a missed opportunity, and then clearly, as we talked about, 15.
Yeah, 15 I was similar. I was crying my eyes out. I probably didn't realise. I mean, there's the famous I dropped that mark with a switch kick. I always get into moors. I'm like, mate, you must put lube or something on that ball because I was actually playing well. But that one moment which I've slipped over and Cyril's kicked a goal and. To put a bit of extra mayo, Cam's done the same thing after it to exaggerate it, but I just didn't realise how big of a moment that was. But we did the same thing. We missed so many easy ones early. I remember some blokes missed some sitters, and the one that kills me there because I mean everyone's like it's hard to move on because West Coast go to the granny. I'm pretty sure we pump them or we beat them prior, but to go Freo West Coast granny. Because Hawthorn were the ones to get over. Like Hawthorn won that grand final by like ridiculous amount of points, 10 goals. So we win that game and we go to Melbourne and play West Coast. I know this town, like whoever wins that game, whoever loses that game, like that's it. Like you'll never be able to live that over.
Yeah, look, maybe the footy gods were telling us or something. But yeah, it's that year in particular. And then I decide late in that pre-season or off-season to play again, and I don't regret playing another year because I felt like I'd sort of maintain my form and whatever. But it was a tough year, that one. We'd had a lot of injuries, and the club was in a transformational period with both coaches and game style and players, and And then at the end of that year, obviously, a lot happened, not for the good, probably, in terms of lots of great people leaving the club. So, yeah, a bit of a challenging time.
Well, 16 was a weird year. That's what I wrote down, because in the middle I remember everything. But tough year. Did you withdraw from captaincy that year?
Yeah, I mean, I'd said to the guys, both the leaders and the coaches, look, even as early as sort of 14, 15, look, let's work through a transition. Like, I can't do this forever, and there's lots of other guys that potentially we should be looking at. But the process at that point was, we'd open slather, you do your vote and whatever. But at the end of 15, because I was that close to probably pulling the pin, I said, look, I'm not going to be captain. I don't care. No, I don't care. I care so much about it. But yeah, let's tell the guys that I'm not going to be captain. That's a decision that's already made, and then we'll do the vote. And then did the leadership vote. Not much really changed in terms of the structure of the team. Barra is the captain, and we move forward. But it was a tough
year, and tough year for Barra as well, because he gets the captaincy, and even all of us. It was we lost our identity. That's how I reflect on it. We brought in Gilly and Haley. We brought in the Hawthorn. We tried to copy a bit of Hawthorn, yet we were so Freo. We should have stuck to our defence. We should have stuck to what we were grinding it out for 4 years. Because it might have, I don't know, but we literally...
there was some wrinkles that we needed with our ball movement, but there wasn't...
It went even worse.
Yeah, we went from one thing to the other too quickly. There wasn't a transformation. But I mean, that in the end, that year, so that last game that we played, we obviously had a tough year, played that last game. Bulldogs, who had a ripping year, and then we go out and win that game, and I still... it's one of the best memories I have from my career. Sort of first game, last game, 30, 40,000 people. I saw like grown men and women crying as I was doing my lap, which it probably, I didn't appreciate the impact I'd had on a lot of people. But yeah, it was a bit of an end of an era for all of us, and loved it.
Yeah, well, I remember it as well. What I do remember, I remember the big fella was putting it on you, lace out, mate. But it's probably the first time you weren't kicking straight. I remember you at the end of the... I went to...
I reckon I missed 3 in the last quarter.
It's bizarre, because I was at my mate Gav's house. He goes, "Do you watch footy, man?" He's got KO up, and it was Freo plays Dogs, your last game. I go, to be honest, I fell out of love with the game. I literally was getting dropped from 2016 to now. I literally never watched I hardly watched my tape, besides what the coach had. I didn't really watch much footy, especially myself. So I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, I think I had to tag the Bont that day, and did an all right job. But I was on, because I was playing midfield, I was like amongst it. I was like, oh, it's funny watching yourself again. And I was just like, oh, we win this game. It's your last game. And I didn't realise how many, because the crowd's like, and then you'd miss it, but then you get another chance.
It was so anticlimactic.
Oh, it was so funny.
I reckon there was 3 in the last quarter that would have gone off. And I reckon I remember you not far away from one of them, because I was playing on Joel Hamling.
Hammer was there,
And anyway. I mean,
there's one moment, because I remember I reckon I've gone back and just felt this big unit just go bang. I'm literally going out and bang, and just taking them in my hands. And
really?
Big pass. Maybe that's the one I remember. Comes straight through like from 48. Who the fuck is that?
Anyway, it was a great memory. And then I reckon it was the first time in a long time that we'd had a beer in the change room.
I've got a photo. I'll share it with you. I sent it to our WhatsApp group the other day, because I was when we were chatting, I was going through a few memories, but. You adopted the cricket thing, and you said, I want to have, I just remember you saying, I want one thing, and I want beers in the change rooms, which is still ingrained in the culture now, which is great. And it's so good just to have 1 or 2 beers with your teammates. But sometimes you don't feel like, because you feel sick. But I remember just all of us crowd around, and you should see, the reason I remember it, you should see the talent. Like we had a lot of young guys, all these blokes that have been, again, they've all left.
Oh, Ed, Lockie
Weller. But there's just a group of blokes. You would be like, did we all play together? Like it's a bizarre. It's an amazing photo, and it was a great way to finish, because the Bulldogs go on and win the premiership that year. It's like,
well, let's see, they have 2 weeks off, come back, beat West Coast, and then go on.
They do the amazing run from 7.
Hawthorn and GWS.
Yeah. It's mate, like I said, 353, 700 goals, and all the individual accolades. But there's so much in there. NFL, so we got a big shout out to our sponsors, Cap Z, the home of sports fans, Pav. So if you need any jerseys, hats or whatever, but I've only got a few left, because I've given a few out. I don't know if your team's here. Who is your?
No, so I'm a Giants fan.
Giants.
New York Giants, only because we got looked after there when I talked about this before in 2011 we went there. We got big tour and met a few of the guys, and so I'm a Giants fan. They won the Super Bowl that year.
Wow.
They haven't gone near it since. So.
Yeah, they've been bad. That's when they beat Brady.
Yep.
With the was that the classic catch?
No, that was 2 years prior. But yeah, they still went on one that year. So no, I'd probably out of these teams be a Green Bay.
Take the Green Bay, mate. That's on the house at Cap Z. And our great sponsors here, Rick's Eyewear. Got some freshies I told you about. These are the Grand, our New York.
I need a big pair for my schnoz.
Yeah, we'll give them a try. They're our new ones. The Grand. We've done a New York collection, and it's all the streets. All our sunglasses are named after streets in Manhattan. But and we have the footy. We've got to get the big fella to sign. We've got someone special that wants.
They look good?
Yeah, they look good, Nate. As long as they fit, because I know that Frankie's 7 next month, so we'll sign that. What have I? Oh, so let's before we go, because you got to go now. Post footy, yep. You're very intelligent. What are you doing with yourself? You're obviously doing 9 News, Fox Footy. We're here at Pickstars HQ. In Perth, but there's a lot of other things. What have you done with your life outside of footy?
So when I finished, I'm very proud that I did sort of 2 university degrees while I was playing, so Bachelor of Science and then an MBA. And I wanted to use my brain, I guess, effectively once I'd retired from the AFL. So got involved with a couple of startups, PMY Group. Paul Yeoman's founded that business and I'm assisting him there. We're sort of an independent tech advisory business doing stuff around stadiums and precincts. That business is going really, really well, got offices around the world. And then Pickstar with James Begley, again, sort of a similar role, assisting him grow that business. Got 2 global platforms, a marketplace to connect brands and fans with talent, and also a talent activation platform for rights holders like the NFL. NFL is a client of ours, so too a bunch of AFL clubs, Cricket Australia, NRL. They use our platform for all their player appearances. Do that plus the media plus 3 kids, so
yeah,
life's busy,
busy.
But I'm really enjoying my transition out of the game.
Yeah, it's epic. You're such a busy man, and like Matty DeBoer, you guys are so impressive with what you were doing away from the game whilst dominating in the game. What's it like? 9 News is fascinating. How do you find that? Before I get these little banter clips up, because I know you got to run, but.
Oh, mate, it's such a scripted, hard thing, and. Like you don't have much room to do what you want to do. What do you got for us?
I've got some funny stories. So like the biggest one that literally had me in tears. We talked about when we go to the barbers sometimes, and more so you because you're so well known. But the story we always do to the small talk at a barber sometimes can be annoying. Sometimes it can be great, depending on what they're talking about. If they're talking footy, it's a bit like, oh man, I get this all the time. Just can you clip my hair so I can get out of here? But can you just give everyone an insight? This story, man, is so funny. And I was a young captain, and I hated going to the barber because the small talk. So I started cutting my own hair. Took a big chunk out of the back. So I had to go back to the barber, and it's just around the corner here. And Matty DeBoer and his family always used to go to this place, so sort of a well-known. There was a lot of footy talk. Got there one day and was waiting my turn. Old school sort of barber. Got into this chair, and it wasn't the guy that I normally have. It was a female, and I was like, oh, she's going to just chew my ear off here. But no, this is great. Just straight into it, all business, no chat at all about footy, and she's just finishing the last touches of this haircut, and Carl, the owner, comes over and goes, oh gee, Matty DeBoer's playing great footy, go the Dockers. And she sort of stopped mid-snip, looked at me in the mirror, and she was like, who's he talking about? And I said, oh, Matty DeBoer. Wanted to keep the answers really short. Yeah. And she goes, oh, does he play football? And I said, yeah, he does. And she goes, oh, do you play football? I was like, oh, yeah, I do. And she goes, oh, who do you guys play for? I said, oh, well, the Freo. She said, oh, is that right? Because I'm related to that Matt Pavlich. I went bright red. I started to sweat. I'm like, and there's blokes behind you.
People start laughing and giggling, and I'm like, how am I going to? I was like, oh, yeah, how are you related? And she said, oh, we're long lost relatives from Croatia. And I didn't want to tell her I'm probably more Irish and Scottish than I am Croatian. And so it started getting a bit awkward. And the guy comes over and goes, oh, you realise this is Matthew? No. And so she starts. The poor girl's probably been dining out in this story for years, and then I'm finally in her chair. So, no, very, very awkward.
Mate,
I've never been back.
It's so funny, man. I can just imagine, like, you're trying to shut it down, you're trying to help her, and she's just digging herself.
Straight into it.
That is so good. What about the alter ego, one of it, Luke McFarlane? Ask him about Mav. Why Mav? So we've got Pav and we've got Mav.
Well, and my mates say there's a Sav as well. So, you know, when you lost a game and you're injured and sore, there was Sav, which was sad Pav. Yeah. Pav's just, sort of standard. And then Mav was, I don't know, I think, out and about, having a few beers on the D floor with the lads, just having fun. That was Mav.
Yeah, younger Mav.
Probably younger version.
Saw a bit of Mav the other week, which is great. Yeah. Jeez, it was a good time. Love Mav. We love Mav when he comes out. Also, there's a story, Wish was saying that, ask him about the time we were in London, I think it was, after a game where he was riding a rickshaw down the streets of London. Ask him about that one. I was like...
So this is the problem with Luke McFarlane, who doesn't drink. Like, he remembers all these things and he can point out our failures. I
had to Google what rickshaw was. I didn't know what... I knew it's a restaurant in Gold Coast, but...
So we'd played Collingwood at the Oval in one of those exhibition games, beaten them, and we're out on the tear having a great time with the boys and all the staff, and everyone was there. And we leave in this nightclub and we're like, oh geez, there's no cabs, how are we going to get home? And a couple of rickshaws, the bikes, so we jump in the back. I think it was Whoosh and I can't remember, maybe Big S and someone else is in the other one. And I was like, right, we're having a race, like back to the hotel, let's have a race. Put some pound on this thing to get back. And so we're losing, right? I'm like, nah, mate, get off. I jump on and just start pedaling and trying to catch the other guys. I think we sort of, somehow sneak through a red light and end up winning this race. But
so you won?
Yeah, we won.
That's great. That is great leadership. Oh, mate, that is so funny. That is so good. I think there's plenty more, but I know you got to go, and I really appreciate your time. Quick questions like Fremantle or Coburn?
Freo.
And should they go back to Freo? And when will it happen if they did?
You need a precinct big enough. Like if they can get that area at the back where the was it the Riley Centre? Stan Riley was it? Freo's great. And I understand the reasons why they made that decision because a bigger space. But yeah, Freo Oval was home for me for 17 years. Yeah.
Biggest memory? You have to give me one. I know there's so many, but one highlight. You just go boom.
The last game. Yeah, last game, winning that was and being a part of that team to struggle that year and get there. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Is there any aspirations to go back and coach Fremantle?
Not coach. No, I don't want to coach. I'd be happy to look at sort of admin positions later down the or governance positions. But yeah, I feel when you're captain for such a long time, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of expectation on that role, and the coach is even higher above that. So I don't feel like putting myself and my family through that. Yeah,
great call. Completely get that. Hardest player you've played on?
So many hard ones because I played back forward, and James Hurd was pretty good.
He's my favourite Hurdy.
There you go.
Love Hurdy. And who is the greatest player you've played with? There's a few. It's hard, isn't it?
Look, yeah, the three that I probably played the most with, David Mundy, Luke McFarlane, Aaron Sandlands, I'd find it hard to split those three. The big four, you four. That's our leadership group right there with Matthew Pavlich in there. Look, that's all I've got, mate. I mean, I've got plenty more, but I know you've got to go. You're a busy man. Welcome to the Ausamerican Sports Club, Ausamerican Aces Sports Club. Thank you for coming on Tommy Talks. It's so good to have this chat and share it with everyone. It's an amazing career, and yeah, mate, thanks for coming on, and I look forward to another beer soon and getting Matt back out in the tennis floor. Look forward to it, Tommy. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.